Thanks for your time. So students beginning today, it was with masks in the end. Was there a possible option to not have to have the masks? Some students feel a bit stressed about them, or perhaps have rapid antigen tests at all the exams instead?
So look, obviously, Tom, we've worked with New South Wales Health to get our exam settings right for the HSC. We're running them a few weeks later than we had planned, and obviously we've got things like all of our staff being vaccinated, social distancing, but also mask wearing. And it really is a key element to make sure that we don't have students knocked out as close contacts. I understand that it can be frustrating for some students, but at the end of the day, we've got to do whatever we can to get students through with as little disruption as possible, and that's why we've landed with mask wearing.
Okay, so no rapid antigen tests for all these exams. If there is a positive, you say it will have as few people as possible knocked out. But if there's a positive in an exam today, how many people would be knocked out of sitting exams in person as a result?
Yeah, so obviously with working with health, where we've landed is if there is a student in an exam room who does test positive for COVID after today or on any day during the period, we will only need to look at the students who are sitting in the immediate vicinity of that particular student. And as they will all be wearing masks, it will only be a student who is unvaccinated who could potentially be a close contact. So we think that that was the absolute best way to make sure that we minimise the number of students who might be knocked out. That's the most important thing, getting every student to sit every exam and really trying to minimise that disruption, as I said.
Okay. So that would be a hope, that there would be no one vaccinated who would be a close contact and have to sit out exams. Would people within a certain area or everyone in that room just have a rapid antigen for the rest of their exam period? How would that work?
Yeah, so obviously we're going to work with health should there be any close contacts in any of our exams. And, you know, we're talking about more than 800 schools across New South Wales, 70,000 students sitting 110 exams over the next 3 weeks. So we do just need to monitor it literally on an exam by exam basis. Depending obviously on that student, if they are unvaccinated, then it's likely they will have to do the 14 days of isolation based on health advice. But we'll continue to work with health. I think the main message to our students is we have done everything to keep you safe. We've put every provision in place that we can for COVID-safe exams to really minimise that disruption. And after such a tough year, that has to be the most important thing, getting these kids to the finish line.
Mandatory vaccination for teachers kicked in yesterday. How many are still unvaccinated?
Yeah, look, Tom, I'm really pleased that we're sitting at about 96% of our permanent teachers fully vaccinated. It's a stellar effort. They've gone out and gotten that jab to protect themselves and their students. So what it means in raw numbers is we've got just over 80,000 permanent teachers in New South Wales. We're sitting at about 3,000 who are yet to tell us their vaccination status. But of that, we know a number of them will be on things like maternity leave or long service leave. So principals have begun being contacted yesterday and through today to see what that final number is. Like I said, I'm really pleased with the overall take-up rate. I think it shows that strong leadership of our teaching workforce. Okay. And of course, any gaps that are existing in schools are being filled by casuals and temporary, so we're not seeing any staffing shortages at schools due to that vaccine mandate.
So you have those teachers on hand. That could be thousands of teachers, plus we could see other teachers knocked out through being exposed and so on. You're confident there's not going to be any shortage of teachers this year or even next year?
Yeah, so every principal at our public schools in New South Wales has been given support. They have all been able to manage staffing locally based on casual and temporary access to staff. And I think, you know, there's 2,200 public schools in New South Wales. The fact that we are sitting at only a few % who haven't been vaccinated, and like I said, we anticipate that the actual number will be less than 3,000 because there will be a number who are on leave. We'll have some more concrete figures on that later in the week. But I think overwhelmingly our teachers have done what we've asked. They've gone out, been vaccinated to protect their students and also to protect our school communities.
You've got a meeting this Friday on the curriculum. Alan Tudge has said of the proposed 7 to 10 stream on history that he believes it paints an overly negative picture of Australia and it teaches students a hatred of Australia. Do you agree?
Look, I think it's really important that we teach our students through the curriculum to love our country and be proud of being Australian. Obviously, I'm looking forward to having those conversations with Minister Tudge and other colleagues from around the country when it comes to curriculum reform. We've always been really clear in New South Wales, particularly in the literacy and numeracy space. We want a phonics-based approach. We want to be evidence-based. But look, I think we've got to have a curriculum that gets that balance right. And for history,
I'm asking,
it's important that students are proud of who they are.
Does this proposed
well, like I
curriculum
said,
get
I
it
still
right?
need to. Yeah, so as I said, we've only seen draft versions of that so far. Clearly, we'll be having those discussions as education ministers later on this week. I look forward to doing that with my colleagues as is appropriate. But I think that there's
But you've seen the draft versions. I'm just
perspective.
asking if you have concerns from what you have seen so far.
Well, like I said, I still think that there is work to do, and it's only in a draft at this stage. Ministers will have that opportunity to have those conversations later on in the week, and ultimately we all need to sign off on it. But I would share Minister Tudge's view that we need to make sure, as I said, our children are proud of Australia's history, and that's certainly what we want them to be taught.
But do you share his view that so far from what you've seen of the proposal, that this curriculum shies or it goes away from that?
Well, like I said, I don't really want to make comments in terms of drafts. I'm looking forward to seeing some of the final documentation within the next few days and later on this week when ministers meet. And I think it's important we get it right, and I think there will be very robust conversations when education ministers meet, and that should be the case.
All right, perhaps we'll get more thoughts after we have the full details of it. But Minister, thanks for your time today.
Thanks for having me.